Hello and welcome to the SecurityBridge webinar. I'm Holger Hügel. I'm Product Management Director at SecurityBridge. And today I'm glad to have a customer with me in the call, Dirk Kurbitz. Welcome, Dirk.
Thank you. Welcome, Holger. Thanks for having me.
So our topic for today is to have a look at what happened at Fresenius Digital Technology in the last, I would say even 12 months actually, since you decided to go and start your SAP security journey with us till today, and share some experiences, some lessons learned, and at the end we will also look at certain features that you would like to point out. Before we start, a few technical things. So let's have a first look at the agenda. We will have a quick introduction for SecurityBridge as well as for Fresenius for sure, and then dive into the most interesting question: why investing into SAP security? So what are the motivations behind what Fresenius did there, their experience, their achievements? They are now 6 months live with SecurityBridge. And yeah, as mentioned at the end, we will also have a look at some product highlights on the system. It will be our system here, not the Fresenius system, simply for security reasons. We, Fresenius, cannot expose all the information there, so we use a system here, but Dirk will walk us through the highlights from his perspective. And for sure, at the end, we will also have a summary and Q&A session. So please feel free to use the chat on the bottom right corner of your WebEx menu. And during the presentation, if I see something that we can answer right away, I will try to pick it up. But at the end of the session, we will go through all of them. So let's quickly start with a quick introduction of SecurityBridge. We started 2012 actually with the idea of supporting organizations with all kind of ABAP developments, mainly for transport and change management processes. But we also saw quickly that the entire SAP security domain was not covered very well in terms of automation, in terms of efficient processes. So we started with products there. Threat detection was the first module. And over the years, we expanded to what we have today. So today we cover all kind of SAP security related topics with different modules across more than 100 customers, more than 5,000 systems, and with an organization that grew from 2 people 12 years ago. Now we're up to more than 50 people, spread across the world, actually in all continents, so America, Europe, as well as Asia Pacific. Now, I do not want to spend too much time about SecurityBridge because today is about Fresenius experience there, but just to highlight 3 points, 3 things that are very important to us when we talk to customers is, why are we doing this? Yeah, so the overall topic is to help you ensuring business continuity. This means that we want to make sure that your cybersecurity team also understands SAP. So this is also the reason why we call ourselves SecurityBridge. We bridge between the SAP specifics and the more general cybersecurity team, and we see this to be quite a challenge for companies, mainly large companies, as there is a lack of insight into the SAP black box. But also from a risk management perspective, we want to create awareness. Think about all those vulnerabilities or missing patches in an SAP environment. They all create a certain risk. You should be aware, you should understand what this means for your business so you can act accordingly. There are so many things, you will not be able to do everything, but you should know what is having the most critical impact on your environment and act based on that. And last but not least, and I think this is something also Dirk will touch upon, is to empower the organization with information and actionable intelligence. That means really the information that matters delivered to the people that are in charge of it, so they can act immediately in case of a critical issue or a cyber attack that is happening, and you need to take measures to protect your system. Okay. So with that, I would like then to hand over to Dirk. And once again, welcome, Dirk. Thank you for your time. And let us know what was actually your starting point there.
Yeah, the journey started a few years back. And I think I heard for the first time about SecurityBridge in 2020. I think I was there on a conference and met Ivan. At this time, it was an interest to see that there are companies on the market interesting into security with a focus into SAP. And then for sure, we defined our own roadmap. But let's first start with a company overview of what's Fresenius, what is Fresenius Digital Technology within Fresenius, and the motivation, and also what we have so far done and where we are heading for in the future. So maybe you can flip over to the company slide.
Although with a little bit of delay, I try to be ahead of you.
Okay, sure. So what is Fresenius? Fresenius is a Fresenius Group. It's a healthcare company with a global footprint. So we have a clear mission. So we are healthcare, so a patient is a very important part of us. So we are serving them, we are improving the life, the quality, and also driving innovations in the healthcare market with our units within the Fresenius Group. Fresenius Digital Technology is the IT provider within the Fresenius Group, and therefore it's our mission to support our business partners in driving the things completely in the future. And just another slide, just to give you some kind of an overview. It's a global company, more or less each and every continent, high number of production sites, and as you can see, a very high number of employees. So the two business units are Fresenius Kabi. This is a nutrition healthcare company as well with IV drugs, depending on the geographical location of the world, and as well Helios, which is a hospital, so private hospitals within Germany and Spain. Just to give you some figures, if you're interested in Fresenius, feel free to join our webpage and surf there around, and you will find more facts about what is Fresenius, what's the purpose, what is the intention. But let's go over to our own journey with a focus on SAP and security. And sure, so what is our motivation? So as we are using SAP on a global scale, it's a clear need to improve and also drive the SAP security forward as part of the holistic security, because SAP is one application, but for sure in a global scenario, there are much more things. And also to have a focus, okay, to identify threats, to drive the vulnerability management forward, but clearly seeing the need to think beyond classic SAP systems and also thinking in the direction of the SAP PaaS and SaaS world as a necessary assessment to protect as well, because there as well the new developments going in the direction as part of your S4 journey. And having at one central location all data which can be then evaluated, triaged, and analyzed. And for sure as well, integrating such a technical solution in an end-to-end procedure, because we have processes in place as all other global companies how to do things, but SecurityBridge is the technical solution for the, let's say, SAP world, but for sure integrated into the processes surrounding. And yeah, that's the motivation.
Mm-hmm.
We have analyzed the market, and I'd have identified SecurityBridge as the most fitting partner to us.
So, Dirk, quick question also from our end, because I hear this from many customers that they have so many things to do in SAP. Their backlog is never empty. Yeah. So probably was there a compelling event for you to start with this, or what was kind of from an actual time perspective? Why was last year the year to go with SAP Security, or to maybe the month before you started?
So it's about evolution over time. So we identify the need. We identify as well, based on a methodology, okay, how we can address those risks identified, if it's an SAP or another application. And therefore, we spent a lot of time on identifying the best fitting solution for SAP, because it's a global solution with very critical data and sensitive data within. And therefore, it was a selection of a couple of vendors. And at the end, we have identified that SecurityBridge fits to our vision and idea best.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So let's see, what were those things, and what did you achieve during that time?
Yes, so we have used the opportunity provided by SecurityBridge to have a so-called onboarding package, which is a service where you are guided by a product expert to install and to configure. This is very helpful from my perspective as well, to learn easily how to use the solution, because it's a new solution. Yes, it's based on SAP, but nevertheless, you must gain the required knowledge to perform at best, and also to drive the things forward, to identify potential solutions which you may have not recognized at the time when you were focusing on the first items in your scope. Therefore, this onboarding package together with the product expert was very helpful and was guiding us to enable ourselves to learn and to transfer us as well into an expert, that we are capable to operate solely and independently from any other party or SecurityBridge quite efficiently. And for sure, the UI experience is helping us from a technical point of view, and as well from a user experience point of view, to identify the most critical items, and as well then to prioritize them and putting them into a project or an approach to remove or remediate those kind of vulnerabilities. And as well, also the advice model within the product support is quite helpful, because sometimes you have maybe a complaint, but at the end it's main lack of knowledge, and this is well supported, and as well the channel to address new ideas is helpful also to be part of an innovation, because from my perspective, SecurityBridge is in the clear position to deliver a usable product to enable me to focus on my critical items as a customer. And last but not least, let's say the rules to configure, to monitor the vulnerability management as well as the threat detection. It's definitely an ongoing process. It starts with a first set, but then it's continuing over the time. And this is something you need to consider if you implement such a solution, that it's not a one-time effort, it's a continuous effort.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the first experience, so it was quite good. We were able to deploy and to roll out and to start with our journey, roughly a year back.
Yeah, I think it would also be interesting to give an insight to the audience how the journey went, right? So from a time perspective, from a project perspective, maybe you can add some information there.
Yes, definitely. So we started with the product expert, and he was guiding us to install the central system and to enable the technical processes to collect the first set of data. And as well, he was guiding us how to integrate the first agents, how to configure, let's say, to operate all main processes. And then we connected at first a couple of non-productive systems to get more used to more data. And then based on the experience, we continued with starting with productive systems. So we followed the change methodology and best practices. Rolling out such a global solution should be done carefully in whatever environment, and therefore learning in the non-productive environment is definitely helpful before applying it to production. And for sure, besides the technical processes as well, the team must learn how to use and to operate, to understand, and therefore this gathering process, learning enablement process took some time, but let's say onboarding a system is a standard task, and it's easy, especially with the standard system types like ABAP system or Java system or similar. There it's quite fast, and then you have the next system integrated into your end-to-end processes. So it's a combination of technical enablement and as well building up in the same time an operational procedure, not fully productive, but starting to work and to enable and to leverage from a solution.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thanks a lot for that. We will probably touch upon, once we look at the product, also what are the topics that you adopted first. So let's first have a look at your achievements.
Sure. Well, so we touched already, let's say, a little bit that we have for sure built up operational procedures into the surrounding procedures, that they are end-to-end established, which is a very important step to operate such a powerful solution and leverage ideally at maximum values. And for sure, and while turning on the data collectors, we learned a lot about our environment. Some of them expected, some of them unexpected, some of them surprising. But it's the first way to define and to drive as well a way forward to improve the overall situation, mainly starting with vulnerability management and patch management, where from the methodology point of view, by reducing and improving the vulnerability part, it's a reduction of potential threats, and therefore starting there and turning it over as well into threat detection as the two main components with a focus. And we are rolling it out across a global scaled high number of SAP systems, and as well to bring this into a operational procedure, and then to drive forward, improving the overall situation, reiterating on the baseline and as well on the template, which are the two configuration layers for threat detection and vulnerability management, to focus there on the newly established data and to define continuously and, let's say, in a agile way, a work item for the next period, and then to iterate and iterate again.
Yeah, I think you already mentioned this, so it becomes an ongoing process. So that also means ongoing improvement and also expansion into new topics, right? So we see here threat detection, vulnerability, patch management. We will see those things in the demo. But you also have some things in your outlook.
Definitely. So we started the journey while deploying the controller roughly 1 year back and then rolling it out to our system landscape, having in the meanwhile updated our system landscape to the next stable version to keep this up and running and also leverage from the product innovation part of view, and also for sure receiving the one or the other bug fix, which is part of a software as a usual delivery level. And therefore, we have updated the software. It's completely rolled out and for sure incorporated into our processes. And one direction we are heading is for sure to continuously develop the platform as the central environment. So integrating the data flows from the BTP world, seeing on the horizon as well the newly developed agent integration ways for potentially the analytics cloud could be very interesting as one data source for financial information, and as well having a look to classic old world. It's transport security, to scan a transport prior to a deployment. One use case is for sure as well do it in the direction of a third-party vendor, know what kind of impact the deployment will have prior to the execution. Another direction might be interesting or not, it's to be verified and assessed, is the shipped privileged access management area. But the focus currently is on enable of transport security to clearly improve the overall maturity of the end-to-end process.
Wonderful. So I would say with that, let's have a look at the product, and as we go there, you might want to highlight certain things. Just for the audience, this is the typical starting point of our product, where you see all the different capabilities, modules you might want to use and dive into. And today we will pick a few of those. So Dirk, you wanted to start with patch management. This was
yes.
one of the early things that you were interested in, and maybe also describe why for you it was so important to start with this.
Yeah. So it's that the use case patch management is out of the box available directly after you have connected a system. So it's very easy to use and to start with the leverage, especially with the focus on the monthly SAP patch day, where SAP is shipping and publishing new identified vulnerability, and therefore the solution is helping to triage where which patch shall be applied, and is also enhancing this with information, with a recommendation like, shall it be done as a project or shall it be done as a monthly cycle? This is indicating for sure the best approach to implement. And this view, I like this view with the landscape, because there you easily see as well on the top with the heat map, you see directly, okay, if you have some of them very critical, which is a clear need to apply, and then to also go in a more detailed view on the level of a system landscape, where you then as well can see, okay, if there is an ongoing implementation between development and test and production, because you see then the reduced pending security nodes. And in this view, our view looks a bit different, because we do not have the latest, greatest version, but we may have it then in a couple of months. And therefore, we see here the overview. We have the opportunity to mark a patch and to say, yes, I would like to create an incident to transfer this item into an action, means to remediate this vulnerability, to start then with the resolution process and connecting this in the direction of the ITSM solution, where then the responsible team can pick up the task and apply the patch. This is very helpful, and as well the information and recommendation, if you close this window or just submit it.
Close. Yeah, no, it will not.
Yeah.
It's close. Where's me? Let me go back and do it. So we'll find something where the guys. But I think coming back to the no problem. But I think these are the things, right? So if you do just focus on the most critical ones,
yes, that's definitely the focus, and as well seeing all the, let's say, when they are released and if they are within the defined SLA, which is as well one column, just to verify if the patch is applied within the expected time frame, to measure this as a KPI just from a security perspective. This is definitely helpful, as well with the enhanced information to see, okay, if this is a manual action or if it's a kernel patch or it's a full kind of, or it's a combination, as SAP tends to deliver various ways to implement a remediation. This is highlighted by the product, let's say with a tooltip, to see here it's a kernel to be updated, and the others one may go with the classic way via S-Node, just to do a semi-automatic remediation. And this is a technical overview, can be integrated easily, and also the download function into CSV file, which is more or less everywhere available, is helping to identify, let's say, and to analyze the mass data. This is the first use case, which is easily available directly after a system is connected, and drive there forward. And if you may jump in one or just one example patch, maybe someone with an ABAP system related, just to see the drill down or the jump in.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find some here. No, it's not here, but maybe some others. AD development. Let's take this one. So is this program error?
This sounds good, like a pro. So if you drill down into it with the forward error, you see then the overview, which is helpful, as well with the recommendation at the top when it can be implemented, and as well surrounded with additional information, and then the opposite for you to see where this patch is applicable.
Yeah.
So it's in both directions possible, seeing it from a system view or from a patch view, which is then as well supported by the Notes browser. These were the first use cases to streamline optimizing the processes, and then we can.
Yeah, okay. So quick question from my side also. I'm just checking the chat if there is something. So if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat. One question from my side: did you? I know this virtual patching is specifically this view is new. I'm not sure whether you are already using, but is this a topic also for you to say, well, it's important to also understand, you know, critical things with certain programs that have a patch and it's still missing in the system, to have this already upfront monitored in the system? Are you using those things?
So far, not. I think it's not yet available to us, but it would be interesting to identify this as a recommendation or an indication. But interesting to know the future direction and also the improvements delivered within the application.
Yeah, good. So let's move on. Going to the security and compliance monitor. A little bit background for the audience. We have here an overview that goes one step beyond the patch management. So patch management is looking at the things that are missing based on the vulnerabilities that are known by SAP. Security and compliance includes that. So it will also show you in certain things that you have a lot of patches, critical patches, hotfixes missing in a system, but it's also checking all other configurations, so configuration parameters and so on. And we would like to focus on one thing here, the heat map. So Dirk.
Yes. Okay, the heat map is a wonderful example. Depending, let's say, how many systems you have in the scope, or the baseline you have in scope, to be more precisely, you see clearly, okay, the use cases where you are compliant, where you are non-compliant, and based on this, you can identify the use cases very easily where a couple of systems are non-compliant, and to prioritize those in your evolution of a baseline to improve the overall maturity of such. So a lot of filterings are possible.
Just extending this a little bit. So as we are looking at all the checks that we have, all the hundreds that are there, and
it's roughly for an ABAP system, I think it's roughly 400.
400,
and for sure, the starting point is to identify, okay, what is best to improve first, and how it can be done. And therefore, the heat map is helpful to see, okay, what kind of checks are having, let's say, a failure. And as well, if you reopen the filtering part, there's one very nice function to specify, I would like to filter by severity high, or the risk is high and the resolution complexity is low.
Wonderful. Then we do this.
Yes. And this is then a sub-search information, and this is then the way of prioritization to start first with the so-called low-hanging fruits, where it's then important to identify those things in the environment. For sure, every landscape looks different. And then depending on the size and the landscape, it makes sense to export the data and not to do it directly within the system. because sometimes you lose the overview if you have too many columns. But that's
in your environment, there are more than just a few.
Yeah, definitely. And this is then helpful to drive this forward. And therefore, the heat map function is quite interesting. And when we have a look into the rating on the left side, so this is the simplified view.
Yeah, correct. We also add some more systems here, so yes, we see this also for the others.
Yes. So this view is helpful as an overview to see, okay, what is my maturity level of a system just on an aggregated layer, not focusing on the level of an individual check, but having an understanding, okay, what is my average on a system? On which system should I focus? Like the system where there is no star or there is just 2 stars. And by this, I'm illustrated and supported in a way that I can start with the most critical items first, and then continue with systems with having 4 stars, which is a system at the other end of a maturity degree.
Yeah. And I think one also good chart would be to see a trend, right? So we just, in this case, we are looking at the productive ones just to show how you improve over time, right? So this is well, it's the same chart with the stars, just in percentage of the rating and over time.
Yes, this is definitely helpful to see it, let's say. And it's also a way helpful to explain, okay, we have developed a maturity over time by whatever, let's say 5% over 3 months, which is a quite well achievement. Or if it's continuously in the same level, or it's or going in the other direction, that it's going more worse. And you see it then by execution run of the security and compliance monitor. I think that's the, let's say, the interesting overview things, not to say that the roadmap portion with the security and the parameters are also quite helpful to go a bit in a different direction than the heat map is highlighting. It goes in the direction to identify and having a little more results behind to see, okay, how many actions are behind. With a pre-filtered sample, let's say it on the top, we see, okay, 4 users are to be adjusted. It's a different thing than having 5,000 users to be adjusted. And then it's possible to drive by criticality and effort the things very efficiently forward.
Great. Yeah, and the same thing actually on parameters level, right? So just a different view, but the same user experience. How is this in your environments? And if you think about the different parameters and the recommended values, so how was it for you to get it into that range that was recommended?
So we are following the recommendation of SAP to define a holistic baseline which is applicable to be applied across the whole landscape, to have a well-protected landscape on the one hand side, on the other hand side, having as well quite good experience that different kind of errors that can happen are very well explainable and not caused by very contradicting configuration. And this view combined with the overview is helpful to identify where some systems are not complying. And for sure, it might be in a case that a single system can't fulfill the general requirements, but therefore the integrated risk acceptance process is helpful to document this accordingly, to know, including an accepted risk by a responsible person, why maybe one parameter is differentiating on a system, whereas all other systems are configured as expected.
Yeah. As you talked about the baseline, and I just used now the SAP baseline as a alternative view. How was your approach in terms of selecting the baseline? We have many that we deliver as out of the box, and we let the customer to pick and choose what they want, maybe multiple in parallel. How was your approach there?
Yeah, so we are using a main baseline, and for some specific scenarios, we are using an additional baseline. This has been established as a quite good idea, and as well in the direction of gathering the experience if a certain change or a new configuration shall be applied, to verify what will be the result if it behaves as expected or it's not finalized, to do then the fine-tuning with the configuration on a separate baseline, and then to run it, and then to transfer the final configuration into the regular execution. So all productive baselines are executed on a regular schedule to have then each and every time a well-defined set of information, and also having a reliable development of a trend. And one or the other additional baseline, sometimes for a specific unique use case which is not relevant for all systems, like in verifying one single parameter, it's with a low effort possible to add just a single parameter which is not in the scope of the usual collection, to add, to run it, to have then a overview across the whole landscape, and as well having a way to test beforehand the results before transferring those into the regular schedule.
Good. Should we move on to the monitoring,
sure,
or are there other things that you would like to monitor?
No, let's focus some minutes on the monitoring.
Correct. So yeah, I think this is one of the typical ways how a lot of systems are out there. So a lot of events in a list. My understanding was you go with the aggregation, right?
Yes, so we go with the aggregation, depending sometimes with or sometimes without the system, because depending on the scenario, it's interesting to see, okay, if a certain event is happening in particular and how often, and then it's not so interesting to know if it's on a specific system. So it depends from the start, and as well the color coding to see, okay, if it's a critical or semi-critical or uncritical event is driving the navigation and the analysis forward. And just for the example of this debugging listen you now have picked up, this is one of the samples where it's in this view, it would be then visible as well to see if an automated action has been applied, like sending someone an email or integrating it into the SIEM flow, which is also part on the detailed view. And here we see as well, okay, so the actions would be visible here in the action area, but also on the overview level, because it's important to know that all critical items are addressed by an automated action.
Yeah.
And then seeing here the information as well which is helping the engineers or the people who are investigating the event, the risk description, the reasons why it's highlighted like this, and then to transfer those information as well into the action. And the event attributes are helpful information then to define the actions as part of the configuration to see, okay, what kind of information I have available to define a criticality or to start with hyperlogging to record very important information, what a user has been performed in the system, because sometimes it's maybe one action you have now identified as a very critical action, but as well other actions are applied by those users, and then to see it in different view, and to understand, okay, the end-to-end activities in a way to identify, okay, and also to evaluate and to analyze, okay, if this is a very critical activity or combined with the additional information, which is then visible if it's maybe a medium. So this is very helpful in the triage and the prioritization and the follow-up actions which are then necessary. And by going in the direction of the work center, just on the top left one, I like this view because here I see on the chart if there are any very critical events available.
Correct. Diving directly into those. Yeah, here we are.
And then
it's already
then to see, okay, this, and then to start from there with the criticality, and as well to see in the work center view the information, how many events are collected within the last period, to have an understanding of the healthiness of the overall landscape.
Yeah, I was wondering, I think for a lot of people in the audiences, during the time now that they are using SecurityBridge, was there a situation where you saw actually, let's say, something that looked like a potential attack and you were able to identify what's going on there?
Definitely, SecurityBridge brings a lot of information and provides transparency within the company to understand and to drive and act based on criticality, and so the transparency is available and can be then as well used and reused into further processes as well.
I think this is a good point to look at. One of the questions, as you mentioned, transferring to other processes. We talked about ITSM solutions, maybe other CM solution in your environment. I think one of the people in the audience wanted to understand more how are you integrating into those?
Okay, so we are integrating in the direction of our ITSM solution for activities which shall then be remediated, and as well into our leading data source for all security events, which is then the overarching SIEM solution. Both is possible and can be configured. The way how you can configure depends on your technical solution, if it's Splunk, if it's Sentinel, or whatever as a SIEM solution, and similarly applies this for an ITSM solution. But we are integrating into both directions, and as well further processes out of the area of risk management from the direction of a risk acceptance point of view, and following as well the processes surrounding and defined agnostically from any kind of technical solutions.
So events are handled, or let's say at least the critical ones are handled on the ITSM level, right? Are you forwarding those tickets, or you create those tickets into ITSM solution? Is this correct?
We are integrating in both directions. As we see SecurityBridge as a central data collector and integrator into processes beyond SAP.
Mm-hmm. Good, wonderful. Thanks a lot, Dirk, for this valuable insight.
Mm-hmm.
Also looking in our chat, just in case there are other questions, so please feel free to add. There's one question in terms of compliance, based on what? I think you already mentioned, so you are following the SAP baseline for checking what's the appropriate value for a certain parameter or a certain configuration in the system. This might be one of the baselines that people want to use, right? So yeah, actually you talked about this. So the SecurityBridge has a baseline which contains more checks. So SAP baseline is a minimum baseline, which definitely makes sense if you want to report these things. The other ones, I know from customers, they are using it for internal purposes. So the SAP team is more granular, more critical in terms of certain values. But for the overall reporting, it's the SAP baseline. The internal is SecurityBridge. Or you might want to have the one from DSAG. DSAG has also a baseline that you want to compare against. Yeah.
At the end, it's up to the user who defines the direction to pick up one of those, and then to iterate and to define, let's say, from the industry delivered one, the adapted one within the company. That's a usual process.
I see also another question. It's quite detailed. Maybe, Dirk, you also want to look at that, as it's directly for you.
Okay.
So while you are reading, I also try to read. So is Fresenius reusing monitoring results in SecurityBridge for internal controls management purposes, IT general controls? More specifically, is consideration of risk which are shared between cybersecurity and OFR, ICS?
Yeah,
Not sure whether you.
I think that's a very detailed question, and definitely it's worth to discuss. But I think this is it goes beyond what we can discuss within this kind of audience today.
Okay, understood. Yeah, maybe I would like to add to this also to the baseline. So the baseline is the technical part of the check, right? So you want to make sure certain SAP specifics are in line. What we also have are the compliance with certain frameworks. Companies might want to be, pretty affected, right? So they need to show compliance with those frameworks, or to be in line with those. SOX compliance might be another one. So this is also something on top that comes and it can be added. Is this something also Fresenius is doing? So one of these frameworks?
We have started to have a look what is provided as this idea. I think the idea is quite interesting, but not yet so a final clue from a point of view that to reuse such kind of subset information of the baseline checks as a way to go in this direction and use them for purposes. But it's maybe something in the future which might be interesting.
Good, wonderful. So I think this is the last question. So question over, do you replicate the logs related to events in the SecurityBridge database? So they're probably replicating into CM solution or other things. Are there other solutions that you are?
I'm not really sure what is the objective of the question, but as mentioned, the integration into ITSM and SIEM are one of the important facts to integrate this efficiently into the surrounding processes. Yeah.
Good, good. With that, I would say we can conclude this webinar. Thank you very much, Dirk, for your time.
Sure.
And the insight that you shared with us. I think it's also important to understand for the audience, you cannot share everything. Security is a very, very critical topic, and nevertheless, we're very happy that you were willing to share at least those information that we discussed in this webinar. So thanks a lot for this. And to the audience, thanks a lot for your interest, and have a good day, and we see us probably in the next webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being part of it. Pleasure. Talk to you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.